Hey everyone, this is Lorcana. Welcome back to my channel. Today what we're going to do is we are going to talk about Sapphire Steel, and specifically all of its set 10 glory. Sapphire Steel has absolutely been so prominent in the meta, has been so much fun in playtesting and deck testing. I just think that this deck list has really gotten even more incredible tools to help it become such a huge force to deal with. I just love the card draw it has. I love the ramp tools it has now. I love the removal it has as well. I just think that everything this deck utilizes is something that I really look for when I'm deck building or when I'm play testing or just playing in general. And I just think that Sapphire Steel is off to an amazing start in set 10 for Disney Lorcana's Whispers in the Well. I just wanted to make a showcase video because I wanted to talk about the deck list. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the deck list. And I also want to say too, before I get started, thank you so much for all of the love this channel has been getting in these past few weeks. I am feeling it. I am seeing it. The comments are there. The DMs are flowing. Like, people are giving me advice. I'm able to give other people advice. The love you've been sharing, whether that just being like love these videos or even just a little like on the video, just makes me so happy, right? Because it reminds me, like, you know, there's people out there that actually care about this, and I think that's really cool. So I definitely want to give it all my effort, and here is Sapphire Steel set 10 giving it some new effort after some incredible playtesting with the deck. So you might be wondering, why blue steel? Like, what am I doing here? Why am I talking about blue steel and not amber steel? Or amber sapphire, sorry, which is usually where I'm at with my showcases lately. And so I actually made like this kind of I don't know, description, and I don't think it's awful. I just wrote here, I said, with Sapphire Steel, we can leverage Sapphire's excellent ramp tools together with Steel's high impact characters, draw engines, and efficient removal to create a very consistent and powerful mid to late game plan. I just love, you know, ramping up to these big bodies that I know are going to do an excellent job at removing my opponent's characters off the board. With set 10, the deck refined its ramp with Cinderella, while Steel's newer characters provide strong board control and threats that the opponents must deal with, shifting the deck from, you know, that slow draw and removal deck that we typically saw Sapphire Steel as, to a more steady, proactive pressure deck list that it now has become with new cards like Headless Horseman and Cinderella. Because this archetype now pairs multiple strong steel threats like Goliath, again, Headless Horseman, and Vincenzo, with Sapphire bodies like Hades, it handles many meta archetypes more reliably. Opponents can no longer just outdraw or rush past you as easily. Like, they really have to put in the work to beat this deck list, and that's really a big reason why I love it. It's just gotten so much stronger. It's so much more difficult to deal with. It has good gameplay into all of the other deck lists I've been playing against on Voldemort or the app that shall not be named, and I just really love it for all of those reasons. So I said here, in short, the deck synergy is tighter, its threats are more resilient, and its resource engine is smoother than in its previous iterations, putting it toward a top tier status in the current environment. I didn't write that last part, actually. That was ChatGPT. I wrote a bit of the first part, but ChatGPT kind of did its ChatGPT magic, so shout out to ChatGPT. Anyways, so you might be wondering, okay, well, what does the deck look like? And this is where I'm currently at in the deck building. We've talked about this one before in my previous video. Again, thank you for all the love on that video, so you're aware of the spooky sites and why it's in there and the different cards in this deck as well. However, this is where I'm currently at in my playtesting. I put the Captain Hooks in and I took the spooky sites out. I just think Captain Hook is a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more flexible into the different deck lists, where a spooky site is just like really good into aggro, but really bad into, like, I mean, it's good into mid-range as well, but like it's really bad into like mostly everything else. So I don't love spooky site as much as I thought I would, but I do like going Captain Hook, Tipo, Cinderella, Tinkerbell, beating an aggro matchup that way. I just think that this deck list is so strong. I love the characters it uses. It's got lots of princesses, which is always very exciting for me. It uses Princess Jasmine, who's my favorite princess ever. So, like, already tier 0. Tier 0. Just because of that. Just because of Princess Jasmine. I mean, people have already started taking her out, but I don't know if I have the heart to do that at the moment. I do think she's really strong too, and we'll go over Princess Jasmine more after. But again, you have, you know, your princesses here who are all using Cinderella's ability to help you ramp more, as well as being very strong threats. Kita being that, I guess, like that B version of Cinderella, the one you don't want, but like if you have to use her, you use her. We also have Vincenzo Santorini, Hades, Tinkerbell, the Headless Horseman as ways to, you know, remove characters a little bit easier off the board by applying either damage to them or applying the Hades, putting it into the Inkwell removal ability. Nomari being able to filter through your deck alongside Goliath, alongside Cinderella, alongside Beyond the Horizon, right? Just a lot of really great cards in this deck. We have removal spells like Strength of a Raging Fire, He Healed Us Thunderbolt, and to top it all off, we've got amazing ramp engines like Tipo, Cinderella, and Sail, alongside Develop Your Brain and Vision of the Future being a ways to find the cards we need when we need them. So wow, a lot of things going on in this deck, a lot of amazing characters in this deck list. It is something you need to watch out for if you are not playing against. You need to know how to play against this deck because a lot of people are going to be on this. It's just very strong, very incredible. I love it. Like, I love it so much. This was the deck list I talked about last time. Same vibes, using Spooky Sight and one more Kita and one more Jasmine rather than the 4 Captain Hooks. Go for it if you want. Try them both out, see which one fits better for you, or don't try either of them out and make it your own. You could totally do that too. If you're like Theo, I would rather an allies build. This is something I've started working on. Again, this one's just theory tested. I've never played this one before, so keep that in mind. However, I do think that there is, again, strong synergy between using the Jasmine line, going into Pleakley, and then right to Tinkerbell, Goliath, Scar from there, right? I do love that Jasmine is a princess. I do love Princess Jasmine in general, but I love that she's a princess, right? So she connects, or she's even stronger with the Cinderella. I also love that she's able to sing He Hurled His Thunderbolt if you're able to get the shift out as early as turn 2. I just really think that Blue Steel is in a good spot right now. So you could honestly try any of these and be quite successful. So this is the deck core. These are the cards that you typically want 4 of, although Beyond the Horizon, I would stick to 2. And the reason that is because these cards are just very important to the deck list. Starting with Cinderella, you are now familiar with her. Essentially, she is going to be played onto the board as early as turn 3, because you're going to try and ramp with Sail or Tipo the turn before. And then Cinderella, at the end of your turn, if you played a princess character this turn, you may put a card from your hand into your Inkwell face down, and then you draw a card. So she's essentially helping you recycle through your hand, giving you those options to ink your cards and then ramp from there while also drawing you cards, so you're not running out of resources as easily. We have Tinkerbell, who is great into aggro builds. She is very strong in the sense that she applies 1 damage counter to each of your opponent's characters, and then, because it gets even better, every time she challenges and banishes a character off the board, you may deal 2 damage to chosen opposing character. So she's very strong against aggro builds. She's not as strong into the more control decks alongside, I would say mid-range she's pretty good into, but into the aggressive decks, she's very strong. Hades being that card that's just going to help you have, I think he's still one of the best removal cards in the game, in the sense that he is just going to allow you to just put one of your opponent's cards that you just really don't like on the board into their Inkwell, so it becomes almost impossible for them to get it back. Vincenzo Santorini, again, having a similar vibe to Hades, however, he deals 3 damage to chosen characters, so it would have to be something with quite low willpower. So, for example, Cinderella, Dumbo, trying to think of another character with 3 willpower. But you get the point, right? You're banishing those low strength or low willpowered characters with this Vincenzo so that you can, again, control the board a little bit easier. He quests for 3, which is fantastic, and then he has 8 willpower, so he's very strong. Beyond the Horizon, not only a great draw engine for you when your hand size is low and you want to draw 3 cards, but as a way to discard your opponent's hand and allow them to draw 3 cards as well. And let me just explain that. So I'm thinking back to a game I recently played where I had Hades on board, and then I bounced it with Madam Mim Elephant. My opponent was on Sapphire Steel. He played the Beyond the Horizon, was able to discard the Hades out of my hand, and was able to play and I think win the game from there. And so just keep that in mind, right? Beyond the Horizon's not only a really good draw engine, but it's a good engine when you're like, I need to get rid of that card in my opponent's hand that I know is there and I need gone, or I think there's some big threats in my opponent's hand that I need gone. You put down this Beyond the Horizon, you tell them to discard 3, and then you watch all those big threats go into the discard and you smile. So I love Beyond the Horizon for that sense. Sail and Tipo, not too much to say there. Your turn 2 ramp options, always going to be your turn 2 ramp options until they make something better. However, I really hope they don't because they're kind of broken. And then we have our removal spells being Strength of a Raging Fire, and he hurled his Thunderbolt. Strength being able to deal damage to chosen character equal to the number of characters you have in play. And then he hurled his Thunderbolt is a new removal spell we got in this game or in this meta or in this set. That says here, deal 4 damage to chosen character. Your deity characters gain Challenger +2. So we do have a deity character in this deck. Actually, it is Hades Infernal Schemer. It says it right here. So you could essentially make your Hades a 5/6 alongside applying 4 damage to a chosen opposing character. Or just chosen character. You could do it to yours, but please don't. And then we also have Vision of the Future as well. I love Visions. It says here, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Put 1 into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Visions being a very strong card into Sapphire deck list. However, oh my gosh, I'm so crazy. I will say, this is so wild. If you have one hand, so if you're playing casted Disney Lorcana like I did all summer, be very careful playing Visions of the Future, because you will be knocking your deck over, putting the 4 other cards onto the bottom of your deck. You will be trying your best to draw 5 cards in your hand, looking at them, and then putting 4 on the bottom, right? It's the same thing with Develop Your Brain, and it was the same thing with How Far I'll Go. I will never forget, I was playing Ruby Sapphire. I think this was about 2 sets ago. It was probably set 8. I think it was set 8. And my opponent, it was the DKP build. My opponent looks at me because I'm doing so much, right? With Develop, with Visions, with How Far I'll Go. All these cards that draw you something and then put the other card on the bottom or put the card somewhere else. And my opponent looks at me and she goes, Theo, you're literally playing the worst deck you could play in the situation you're in. And I look at her and I go, I know. Like, it was such a struggle. So Visions of the Future, great card. However, if you only have one hand, be careful. That's my story. Anyways, let's go to the deck synergy and combos, because I know people really love this part, because it's not always easy to see, right, how these cards are working together, but there are some amazing ways that they are. I also see that I'm blocking this. I know some people like to screenshot this as well. I'll just put myself right here. So feel free to screenshot it, bring it to your locals, bring it to your set champs. You can see my beautiful face right there. Anyways, so you might be wondering, okay, Namarian to Headless Horseman, what's up here? Well, Namarian to Headless Horseman is actually really, really strong. And the reason that is because his ability, no matter what, is always going to give Namari a +3 strength bonus, right? And so I call this a sneak attack. And the reason that is because typically when Namari is ready to challenge, she is essentially a 2/5, right? You discard a card to draw a card when you play her, and then you discard a card to draw a card on the beginning of the turn she's now ready. Does that make sense? I hope so. Or she's now dry. However, if your opponent is not expecting a Headless Horseman, right, they're going to look at her as a 2/5, okay? However, I look at her, if I'm going Namarian to Headless Horseman, as a 5/5. And the reason that is because the Headless Horseman's ability says here, when you play this character, each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random, choosing an opposing character and dealing 2 damage to them for each action that was discarded this way. So you get to discard 3 free cards, beefing up this Namari to a 5/5 or higher, right? Because you could have cards in your discard from before you play the Namari. It says here, this card gets +1 strength for each card in your discard. Does not matter what that type of card that is, just for each card in your discard. Such a great combo. Definitely something to try out. I'm honestly thinking of going to 4 Headless Horsemen just because of how good that is. Next up on our list, we have Cinderella plus the princess synergy. I think most people know what I'm going to say here. Essentially, Cinderella's ability is amazing on her own, but when you pair her with other princesses, you can recycle this ability more often, helping you ramp even further and helping you rotate through your deck further, right? Because you're putting a card in your inkwell and then you're drawing a card for that card you put in. So if you have a card in your hand like a Kita and you're like, well, you know, I really don't want this Kita, it's too like I'm too far past that now, you would put the Kita into your inkwell and then you would draw a card, right? Keep in mind that if you do not need to ink a card that turn, like you're going to be at one, you're going to have an excessive like 1 or 2 ink, use the Cinderella ability, right? If you played a princess that turn to do the inking for you, because then you're getting the resource back, right? So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that it's just like every single time a princess comes down, this character is going to help with the ramp. So she makes the other princesses so much stronger in this deck and just like helping us get to so much bigger characters, right? Like being able to play the Headless Horseman as early as turn 5 is like insane. Like an 8 cost character on turn 5, like I don't know, you guys. Craziness. While my opponent's putting down their Dumbos, I'm putting down a Headless Horseman. Like craziness. We also have Jasmine and Goliath, who both really enjoy emptying the hand. I find Jasmine, it just like empties my hand, and sometimes I say grr, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I need that that challenger +3, so I like it. So you can use Jasmine to actually discard cards from your hand, and then if you have the Goliath on board, he'll just draw cards back for you. So I really like the synergy between those 2 cards for that reason, right? If I need to recycle my hand, if I'm like, I really don't want these cards, I want 2 other cards, then I'll use Jasmine, discard something from my hand, or maybe discard 2 things from my hand, and then Goliath will let me draw 2, so that hopefully next turn I have the answers I need. And then Cinderella plus he hurled his Thunderbolt. Cinderella is not a well-statted card. She's a 2/3 quest for 1 4 cost uninkable. Like that's really bad. But she can sing our really cool songs, like he hurled his Thunderbolt and Strength of Raging Fire, or even Beyond the Horizon, right? So she is a really good card as a singer as well. So I do like the synergy that Cinderella has with He Hurled His Thunderbolt, because she typically is the one singing that song for me in this deck. So those are my combos. And what's next? Some cards to consider. You're probably not surprised about these cards. We have Aurora. She will provide your whole board with ward except for herself. If you have 2 Auroras on board, then you would ward your whole board. And I do love her for that sense. However, she just like, I don't know, sometimes she's just such an easy removal target for my opponent, so she kind of just goes down that way, and like I just don't have the space for her. Like I'd rather put in more Headless Horsemen than before I start considering Aurora. So like I don't have her here, but if you're like, I really love her, then put her in. She's a princess. She's gonna work great with the Cinderella. Mulan, also a princess, can help you rotate through your deck faster. Applies Namari with a +1 strength buff as well, because you're discarding a card. However, she's a very weak card in this deck. I find like if I get her late game, I just don't care for her as much as I should. So I don't like her, but I know some people who do, so you can definitely consider playing her. We also have Doc. Goliath, I feel like really replaced Doc in these higher end steel lists. So I personally am not on Doc, but I do think that Doc is very strong because Goliath has the ability to let your opponent also draw into 2 cards. So you need to keep that in mind. However, Doc being uninkable and being very weak is just like not what we're looking for in this deck. Like we want to be implying Vincenzo Santorini's every single turn, right? We want these big characters that are just completely wiping your opponent's board. We start questing with these big characters as your opponent struggles to remove them. And that's like our game plan. Like that's how we're winning, right? And then we also have Spooky Sight as well. Now, we do have typically a slow start in this deck list. So Spooky Sight is a great card to help us catch up. However, I just don't love this card at the moment, but it's definitely a card to consider. It's uninkable. It is a board wipe when it needs to be into aggro builds. However, into basically every other deck list. Mid-range, yeah, I guess kind of. But into the control decks, like this card does nothing. So you can ink it with Cinderella and Tipo if needed, but I don't know. I'm just on the Captain Hooks right now. I might go back. Who knows? And then this is actually like my what do I want to say? This is my Um, this is kind of like my mulligan guide. Like, I'm not gonna do a mulligan guide where I go through like all my hands and I'm like, okay, in this hand you're gonna want this, you're not gonna want this, right? Because that's too much thought process. I don't mind it when I'm about to get canceled on stream here. I don't mind it, and I've done this before too. So actually, I'm kind of trashing myself. I don't mind it when players are giving me a mulligan guide where they're going through the mulligans and being like, they have this hand, they're going to do this if they're against Amber Steel aggro, or if they're against Emerald Sapphire control, right? But like my brain just does not learn that way. Like I don't remember a word that these people are saying. I don't remember the mulligan that happened, like unless I write it down. However, if I have a picture like this, like, and that just kind of tells me, okay, I'm going against aggro. Like I'm not on the blind. Like this is what I need, right? Like this helps. This is what I'm looking for, right? And then I would maneuver my hand, tailor my hand to fit this. I don't want to see you. I'm going to get so canceled for saying this. I don't want to see the 7 cards you draw in your hand and what you're removing from your hand to do that, because chances are my hand is not going to look the same as yours. It could look similar, but it's not going to look the same. So for me, I don't think I'll ever do a full-on mulligan guide again, but you will see stuff like this, and I'm just going to make that very clear right now. I didn't put anything for the blind, actually. I probably should have. Speaking of not being... Speaking of mulligan guides. But however, if I'm going into a more aggressive deck list, right, I'm typically going Captain Hook into Tipo, into Cinderella, into Tinkerbell. I just think that this lineup is so strong. Tinkerbell kind of blocks your opponent, or freezes your opponent's board. They no longer want to quest because they don't want to give the value that Tinkerbell provides, being that +2 damage that she gives into, like, when she challenges and banishes a character off the board. Cinderella being very strong. Captain Hook also being very strong into aggressive decks, right? I just am always going for Cinderella. I mean, in the blind, you can kind of tell what I'm looking for. I want my ramp and I want my Cinderella, and then I just go from there. Again, into a more mid-range deck, I'm typically looking for, like, develop your brain, if I can find it, but it's not like necessary. Like for me, I want Tipo or Sail. I want Cinderella. I kind of want to go Jasmine because a lot of the mid-range decks are utilizing Amethyst, which is phenomenal. Of course you're going to utilize Amethyst. So strong. Which means I need evasive answers, right? And I find Jasmine being that really good evasive answer because she does get evasive on your turn, and then she gets Challenger +3 when you discard a card. So she can get rid of things like Elsa, she can get rid of things like Dumbo, she can get rid of things like Genie, right? She's very, very strong. So I do love going the Jasmine route. And then because Jasmine is a princess, she helps me ramp further. So now I'm playing characters like Vincenzo, Hades, or even the Headless Horseman. And then for the control deck list, now control I'm not finding as aggressive, not aggressive, but I'm not finding as evasive as other deck lists go. So I don't mind going Cinderella into Namari, into the Headless Horseman, doing that surprise attack, which I call, where I'm now beefing this Namari up to a 5/5 or higher, right? Because if my Cinderella, for example, if I get Sail the Azurite Sea, that's going right to the discard, right? If I get Along Came Zeus, he hurled his Thunderbolt with Cinderella, that's going right to the discard, right? So there's an additional +2 strength right there, right? If I'm singing with Cinderella and I'm using Sail the Azurite Sea, there's +2 strength. Now Namari's a 7/5, right? And sorry to the opposing elephants, but you're like gone because the Headless Horseman's going to give me +3, Namari's going to give me +2, and Cinderella, he hurled his Thunderbolt and Sail the Azurite Sea are going to give me +2. So, and then Namari just gets stronger and stronger as you play more and more of them. So, and as you go through the turns, right? So, like, it typically into control decks, I'm looking for that. I do love the Namari into Headless Horseman on the blind as well. I think she's very strong. Like, if I don't know that my opponent's playing evasive, like, Namari's better than Jasmine. But if I know my opponent's got an evasive threat coming, like Genie, Elsa, Dumbo, I typically want to go Jasmine. I think that's it, actually. So if you stayed this long, thank you so much for being here. This was this is my deck showcase for Blue Steel. All the deck lists will be in the description below. Let me just move myself. Not this. Let me just move myself back down. Beautiful. All the deck lists, like I said, will be in the description below. Feel free to check them out. Feel free to give this video a big thumbs up if you loved it. If you would like more deck showcases like this, please let me know. If there's anything in particular you're looking for from my videos, again, please let me know. I've got some gameplay videos coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to give this channel a big thumbs up, give it a big subscribe, and I cannot wait to see you all next time. Thanks for coming, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.